Hey, we have another category for next year's annual awards.
Oh, what's that?
Best podcast host.
Oh, like all the Christmas podcasts?
No, of ours. 2 choices.
Well, you can't vote for yourself, so Jake wins.
I don't even care that this is by default. This means the world to me to win this.
Well, I didn't vote for you.
The following podcast contains graphic descriptions of international celebrating and global merrymaking. It may not be suitable for angry or unhappy audience members. Listener discretion is advised. You've been warned.
Have you ever seen any of those foreign films? I don't like them.
Some are born great, others achieve greatness, and some watch Christmas movies.
We are the wild and crazy guys.
Well, they're both festive, aren't they?
Joyeux Noel!
And we are the Festive Foreign Film Fans. Okay, Mark, rise and shine. And don't forget your booties, because it's cold out there today.
Wow, that sounds really familiar. It's almost like I've heard that before.
Like you heard it again and again and again.
What's that? Why does it sound so familiar, Bob?
Because we just celebrated that holiday that you celebrate over and over and over. It's Groundhog Day.
It's a Pennsylvania holiday, just want to say.
Filmed in Woodstock, Illinois. I just want to say.
Yes, it was.
They don't say Woodstock, Illinois. It's supposed to be Punxsutawney.
Right.
What I love about that movie, and we're going to kind of spiral off here, just kind of talk a little bit about Groundhog's Day, only because it's kind of like some of our films we watch where they're on the surface, it's one thing, but there are deeper meanings to it. And what you learn if you read about this, and over time heard some of this, but then I actually spent some time looking into it. And so the movie's writer, Danny Rubin, was a Zen Buddhist, and his beliefs are present throughout this film. So it shows the importance of having a positive attitude and how we can improve ourselves through doing good for others. You take Bill Murray's character, who's Phil Connors, and you see how he learns to really see and hear the people he encounters in his life. For a while, he tries to end this cycle by trying to fake it.
Right.
He learns everything he can about
Rita.
Yes, Rita.
Andy McDowell.
So he could seduce her, and that is not helping at all. And he realizes that once he changes how he looks at things, there are new possibilities. And that's what where we see great acting by him. You subtly see these changes, and it takes a while. I mean, I think I've heard that supposedly he's trapped in here for like 10 years, 30 years. You don't know how often he went through this. It's still a comedy. It is very funny. And I enjoy, to this day, I enjoy watching it. It's incredibly uplifting, but it also involves the whole discussion about death and rebirth. He's kind of like he's reincarnated every day until he can truly transform his behavior over time. And only when he gets to the best possible version of himself, finally, is when he gets out of this prison.
He goes from this mindless person.
Actually kind of nasty.
Yeah, kind of you don't like him.
Yeah.
Right.
And I mean, he's not a murderer, he's not a serial, but he's just not
selfish.
Yeah.
Right. He goes from selfish to selflessness throughout the movie.
And that's where it's good acting, because he's still Phil Connor in both versions, but you just see that he himself has changed. And what I notice in the last scenes, as much as he's changed, he seems weary to, going through this again and again. And I think he's almost given up at the end. I'm just stuck in this, and this is how my life is going to be. It just starts over every day. You think about it. Groundhog Day it's a metaphor for what we face in life. We work at these jobs that sometimes we say, is this what my life is for? Is this what life is about? You really can question the purpose of your life. And you see, like, he is reflective of every man in this. What I think, and maybe this is what Danny Rubin was trying to show us, is there's hope.
Yeah.
And we do have meaning. He learns that. It's kind of a spiritual quest, even for a movie, but not a religious one. It's a very mindful, meditative exercise that he goes through to transform his mundane, disappointed life into something more inspiring or fulfilling.
Well, he starts giving of himself a little bit. He
Yeah.
starts investing time. Like when he learns to do the piano, at first I think he is trying just to impress Rita, but I think when she sees the result of it, like I think he's like, oh, I just made somebody happy.
So what did you think of when you learn about the writer and what he was trying to do? And he does accomplish that. And it does, even if you walk away, you say, we need to give more of ourselves. We need to be a better person. And we're not trapped in the same day. We're not in this kind of mental prison.
Right.
But it does inspire you in some regard.
Absolutely.
So, Mark,
Yeah.
if you had lived one day over and over again, what would it be? Would it be your wedding day? Would it be your wedding night? Would it be the birth of your first child? Would it be your senior prom, which, as we know, our attentive listeners know, you attended in a hearse?
You know, this is a really hard question. It's a good question.
I know.
And I hope you're going to answer too, because I don't want to be the only one on here. But I did think about this, Bob.
Okay.
And I had a lot of different answers. And here's where I end up. And stick with me on this one. So, and again, I'm assuming I'm reliving this day. I'm not improving every time. But I'm like, if I could go back to a single day and I could just do it over again, I think it would be the day we celebrated my parents' 50th wedding anniversary. And the reason I would want to celebrate that is, one, we were celebrating my mom and dad, who are awesome people. Two, my whole family was there. And thinking about that, that's one of the last events where my family was all together because, like, with years, not right away, but within a couple years, there were divorces.
Yeah.
There was bad feelings between family members. And so some people stopped talking to one another. My brother died a few years after that. And so I want to relive that day. My kids were young. And so we were just really new parents. So I end up at that day because where my parents' 50th wedding anniversary was held was where my mom worked for 25 years. And so they treated her, the owners and all our friends, they treated her like royalty. And that was one of the greatest days of my life because I was old enough to appreciate my parents and be a part of all this joy and celebration on their behalf.
You know, I sit here and I think, this reminds me of last episode too. I love to be here and you completely floor me. And I go, I mean, that's a great one. Now I feel sheepish, like, is mine good enough?
Well, it's your
I know,
day.
it's your day. I know, but I'm like, what a good day. I wish I was there. I want to relive that.
I wish you were there too. It was a lot of fun. And I will tell you, it was one of those parties that went on forever. And even after the party was over and aunts and uncles and friends and stuff left, my whole family stayed at the resort and we stayed at the bar. My brothers and my brother-in-laws, I don't think we left the bar until 4 a.m. My mom and dad went long to bed, but it wasn't like we were really just drunk. We were just having fun and enjoying each other's company. So what about you?
All right,
what day?
And you're going to say, there is nothing special about this day except one thing. I would go back to the day in high school when I met my wife. And this is why it's interesting. At that time, she was there with a girl I knew. And it was the end of the school year, and we were sitting in the hallway, and I might have even signed her. I didn't know her at all, but I remember that day, and I remember noticing her, and I may have even tried to make jokes to try to impress her or whatever. And it's just funny because it stands out in my head that was the first time I recognized her. And I kind of want to go back and see what exactly transpired and how I tried to impress her. And we didn't date till months later. But that day, I remember.
That's a great day. I love that. Wow.
And you could have been there too. You could have been sitting in the hallway with us.
I think that's very endearing. I mean, but it was a great exercise, and I hope all our fans do this too.
Yeah. Before we head out to a very unique location for a Christmas movie, and one that Americans have become very familiar with over the last 30 years, let's at least go back to Latvia. Let's talk about the trivia question. So the question was about a Latvian man who inspired a fictional movie character who was featured in 3 films. And I gave a clue when I said mate. That was try to tip you off. I said the character was clearly not Latvian in the movies. And if you can believe it, the man, his name was Arvids Blumentals. He inspired the character of Crocodile Dundee.
Incredible.
He was born in Latvia, but he became Australia's most famous crocodile hunter. He is reputed to have killed over 10,000 crocs. And in his hometown of Dundaga, Latvia, they have a huge stone crocodile monument in his honor.
I mean, when I think about Latvia, I don't even think about crocodiles being there.
I know.
And so that just blows me away. And if anybody gets this, they should get double the stickers.
Yes, I know. It's crazy.
Yeah. So you ready?
Yeah.
You ready to go to Iraq? You ready to go to the cradle of civilization and the ancient region of Mesopotamia and learn about when Santa Claus comes to Baghdad?
Sure. Does Santa Claus come to Baghdad?
Maybe.
Want to watch a Christmas movie?
Christmas movies are our bread and butter.
We eat Chinese food and watch Christmas movies.
I heard it's the best Christmas movie since Home Alone.
Tonight, the name of the movie is Santa Claus in Baghdad. And the actors in this, unfortunately, I'm going to tell you up front, I was a little disappointed that these are all American actors.
Yeah, I know. Me too.
But the betrayal of their roles and stuff is very good. But our first actress we'll highlight plays Amal. Her name is Tamara Dia. She was born in Baghdad, but has become an American TV personality. She starred in the entertainment industry with early appearances in a short film called Super Dude and Friend. Never saw that. But she gained an incredible amount of recognition when she was chosen to host the reboot of MTV's Total Request Live in 2017. After Total Request Live, she took over the Grammys red carpet live with E! News, making her sort of a pop cultural news icon. She also starred in a film called The Party Is Over with Kyle Mooney of Saturday Night Live fame. And she's active social media personality and has been an ambassador for companies like Nike, Verizon, Evian, and T-Mobile. The next actor who plays Amal's father is Demosthenes Christian. Although a native New Yorker, Demosthenes is a citizen of both the U.S. and the European Union. He's excelled at playing characters of diverse nationalities and cultures in both American and British films. Before beginning his career, Demosthenes earned a BA from NYU in politics and history and a master's of international affairs from Columbia University. I mean, smart man.
But why every episode do I have to feel like a failure?
I totally agree. We have our podcast, Bob. We're influencers. I don't know who we're influencing and if it's good or bad. But
Each other.
Right. Oh, Marielle looks at you like, oh, he's been working as a professional actor since 2001. And then last actress we'll highlight plays Amal's mother, Nora Armani. Nora was born in Giza, Egypt, and is an award-winning actress, filmmaker, producer, and director. She's toured internationally with her own plays and a short film she directed that won her Best Woman Director award at the Toronto Independent Film Festival.
Wow.
So very accomplished actors and actresses. She also starred on TV and film in the US, the UK, Egypt, France, and Armenia. She's recently awarded a Lifetime Achievement Award at the Alexandria Film Festival of Mediterranean Countries in Alexandria, Egypt. That's a long award. That must be big.
We got to get on the invite list to go, hey, we cover your movies. Can we go to the Alexandria Film Festival of Mediterranean Countries?
We'll work our way in. But anyway, the movie, again, called Santa Claus in Baghdad. It's a short. The movie opens up. It's 1999. They're in Iraq. Talk a little bit about the history of Iraq, Christianity in Iraq in a little while. But it opens up in 1999. This man is breaking into a drugstore to steal, we find out to be antibiotics, to help his daughter, Amal, who has pneumonia.
Yeah.
And so it kind of opens up and the mom is very upset that he's stolen something, very upset that the drugs are actually outdated year. She's like, don't worry, my brother's coming. And the dad's like, that's a year from now, right? She'll be dead by then. She'll miss all this school. And so that's sort of how it starts out. We go to a year later and we meet Amal. Amal's like a high school age girl. She's in class with a bunch. It looks like it's an all girls school.
Yeah.
And we understand or we learn that Mr. Kareem, their English literature teacher is leaving. Amal's very upset about that. She thinks he's a great teacher. And, they say, well, why can't we get a new teacher in here who's cute and sexy versus this sort of old, tall, skinny guy, right, who's teaching us? But Amal's like, no, he's a wonderful teacher. And the one sort of snotty girl says, well, maybe if we buy him a present, he'll give us better grades. And Amal's like, no, we should buy him a present because we want to say something good to him as he's leaving. He's a good teacher. He's teaching us a lot about the Iraqi culture. It's kind of funny. They said, well, why is Mr. Kareem leaving, right? And the one girl says, well, Cockroach lives better than a teacher in Iraq. And so it sort of has a downtrend of like where they live. You see bomb-ridden houses, from the multiple wars that have occurred there.
And isn't there a reference to the other teachers turning over too? Or
just another teacher leaving. Here we go again. We get a good teacher and now they're going out the door. So they decide, right, because he's a literature teacher, that they should buy him a book. And they should make it a very special book.
And that's Amal's idea, which was a great idea.
It's Amal's idea. She really wants him to have a book of literature. And she says, maybe I can help a little bit because my grandfather was a professor of literature at the university. So that's sort of how we meet Amal. We then meet Amal's little brother. She leaves school to pick him up. And as she's picking him up, the teacher said, the little boy's like, he's coming. And she's like, who's coming? She's like, Santa Claus or Baba Noel. Yeah. Baba Noel's coming. And, the sister's like, I don't know. Maybe you're confusing with Uncle Omar. Uncle Omar is coming. And the teacher comes out and says, well, these books were donated. And I read them this story about Santa Claus. They had me read it multiple times, but your brother really sort of now believes that there is a Santa Claus and he's coming. And so she sort of pacifies him a little bit and says, well, maybe you're thinking about Uncle Omar. And he's like, wait, Uncle Omar's Baba Noel? And kind of gets him just enough calmed down to get him home to the house. And so they're at the home, and then Uncle Omar does come from the U.S. So this is their mom's brother. And Bob, as you know, and I'm certainly not going to try to represent my daughter-in-law, Nancy. Her mom and dad are from Iraq. Oh. They came here via Greece. Oh. And I don't know their story, and I wouldn't try to articulate it, but I know there are two people who I have this immense respect for and what their life has been. And when I watched this, so it was kind of hitting me emotionally a little bit because I thought about them. And I thought about how when they came to the U.S., George, who was the oldest of the children, he made a personal commitment to himself and to his family to make sure all his family came over to the U.S. eventually. And so it was like that scene when Uncle Omar comes in and sees her sister and it's been 10 years. I had to pause the movie for a second because I just remembering George and Gracie's story about, I can't even imagine just how much courage and fortitude it took for them to leave Iraq when they did, come to the U.S., and then over the years bring their family little by little over. So Uncle Omar comes in and he brings a big suitcase and all the kids are around and they're excited. And he brings things like antibiotics. And then he brings arthritis ointment for the one aunt. He brings laxative and they kind of like downplay it. He brings that prostate home test kit. Right? So there's a tiny little bit of humor in there.
It's humorous, but it's so sad that he's medication. That's what he's bringing. He's bringing
things they can't get access to. And so the little boy is upset because he's looking for more. And he's also saying to his sister, well, he doesn't look like Santa. He doesn't have a beard. And she's like, well, maybe he shaved, right? He then gives each child $20. Each of the children. But the little boy sort of has this huge meltdown. This is not what I want. I wanted a little red car. I've always wanted a car. You're not Baba Noel. So the father and the mother are just mortified. Yeah, they're embarrassed. Right? They're angry because they're acting, this way in front of their Uncle Omar. And so the father, they sort of calm him down. In fact, they even say, maybe there's something here we can give him to calm him down. But then the mom and dad go off into their bedroom and the father is just so upset. In fact, there's the one line he says, he's never had a toy in his life. So he decides that he is going to start selling his father's books. The professor from the university starts selling his books to get money to provide for his son, right? He said it's a dad's job to make sure his son is happy, which is really interesting that he said his son's happy. Not his family's happy, not all the kids are happy, but his son is happy.
Oh, and I missed that. Yeah,
which I thought was kind of interesting, which is, there's the hierarchy of males in the Iraqi culture, but that is just... It's just heartbreaking that he sort of has to do this. And the wife's like, don't do this, right? These were so prized possession of your dad's. And so this is where it gets into that next scene after that, Bob, where like all of a sudden things are disappearing from the house. And at first I'm thinking, oh, wait, are they selling things to get things? But I think it's really things are being repossessed.
Yes, yeah.
Things off the wall, right? And so you quickly get to where they're sort of just sitting on the floor with no furniture, eating their dinner.
There was an earlier scene too where you got the sense of that. Remember when Amal, when she opens the fridge and there's
no food?
Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, not only is there no food in there, but they've bought lamb to give to Uncle Omar as a special thing. And she sort of says, well, the daughter's sort of almost like, why? We can't afford this. Yeah. But the mom's like, hey, don't worry. We're just going to have lentils for the next month.
Yeah.
So yeah, poverty at its worst.
Well, and Amal, even though a year before she was sick, she still kind of seems a little sickly, doesn't she?
A little bit, yeah.
Or like weak.
You figure probably not nourished.
Right.
And so Mal goes into the market to try to find a book and is looking for a special book. She doesn't want just any old book. Finds a book that she thinks the teacher will want. Gives an envelope to the guy and says, I'd like to buy this book. The envelope is full of money that each of the students has donated money for. And the guy's like, no, this is not enough. Yeah. You can't buy it. And she's like, I want this book. And then she realizes, well, wait a minute, I have this $20.
$20.
Right. Yeah. So the money that Uncle Omar gave for her, she puts all of that then towards the book. So they buy that book, they wrap it. So it's this famous author. And so they get the book, they wrap it, they present it to Mr. Kareem after the class. They present it to him after the test, so they don't think he's bribing him. And he opens it, he looks at it, and they even mentioned, I think, as the reason they bought it is because he mentioned that author multiple times. And so he looks at it and he's really very appreciative of the gift, and he opens up the binding and starts flipping the first few pages, and you sort of see this blank look comes over his face, and they're like, oh no, did we buy the wrong book? Is it bad? And he then shares with the class that this book was from his favorite professor, that his favorite professor at the university had owned this, and then he felt really bad because he figured, well, he probably had to sell it to get money, and that his heart was broken that, and he really wanted to return it to the family. And that's when Amal kind of finally realizes that she just bought her grandfather's book that they owned already now for the teacher.
Yeah. And they have kind of a meaningful look. The teacher realizes it almost as well. Did you notice that? The way he looks at her.
I didn't pick that up.
Yeah.
You think the teacher knew it was her grandfather's?
I'm not sure. I think he knew somehow there was some connection, or maybe he just knew she was the one who picked it out. I don't know. There was two things. The meaningful look, and he kind of becomes overcome with emotion, the teacher.
Well, he does. Yeah. I think so that's interesting. I have to go back and watch it a third time now, because what I thought he was connecting with was the fact that this was a special gift and that he has this and he'd love to return it someday. And she does say, well, maybe someday you'll be able to do that. But for now, he would be happy that you own this.
Yes. In that exchange, and that's what you have to look at, when he says, I'd like to return it, and it almost seems like he's speaking directly to her. So
I have to go back and look. Yeah. Let's look at that. Yeah. At the end, the girl says, well, I guess Santa Claus did come to Baghdad because little boy got his car. They were able to get a special gift.
The dad sold the books and bought the son a car.
I mean, it's a good short movie. To me, I walked away with it thinking of a little bit of the Gift of the Magi.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Yes.
By O. Henry. Yeah. And really, it's people making sacrifices to provide gifts for others. But yeah, that's sort of the movie. But do you think it was festive?
Because I did think of the Gift of the Magi, and you do see people giving of themselves. And I love how it's all interconnected. The part I had a problem with for being festive is the boy throws a fit.
Yeah.
The dad sells the book. The boy ends up with a truck. And I'm like, they have made so many sacrifices, the family. I almost wish the boy had a gift of the Magi moment. It's like the teacher did. Amal did. She gives of her $20.
Right.
The father does. The boy could have used one too.
Boy could use something.
Yeah. In some regards, festive, but not enough.
I like how you summarized that. I was right on the edge myself. Clearly, there's not Christmas decorations around.
No.
Right. But it's certainly, the gift giving, the selflessness of the holiday is present.
And Uncle Omar too, bringing all the.
And he, Uncle Omar feels bad that he couldn't bring more, but
yes, he does.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yep.
How did you feel when you were watching it?
Sad. I did in terms of, and especially the part where, and it's not necessarily called out. It's very subtle, nuanced, where the things are disappearing. They're, a family unit. They're together. They're not depressed. They're going on with their lives, but it's just sad.
There was sort of a little bit of emotional connection to the movie. I was more down than up.
Right. And the house was spare anyway. Right. Very spare. I don't think the father worked.
I don't know. I mean, you don't know. Sort of, you don't know. Asking that question now, I maybe assume no.
Yeah.
But did the mom work? Like, how to get some money somewhere?
I don't know. Yeah. It seemed like they had fallen on hard times, and did the government put them out of the job? You start to ask all these questions.
That's what happens in short movies, right? You sort of want to get that resolved. You want to say, well, wait a minute, how did they get here? But you're sort of left, which I think is kind of fun too.
Yeah.
Would you watch it again?
I would. I kind of like shorts, and I'm always amazed sometimes how much of a story they can tell in a short period of time. And I probably should have, because of Gift of the Magi, seen it coming, but I was actually surprised that the connection between the book, even though I saw the father grab it, I didn't put it together until the teacher says that.
Well, we didn't know that Mr. Kareem had the grandfather.
Right.
Yeah. I think it's well. Yeah. I would watch it. Now I want to go back. I might go home and watch it tonight, Bob, and just see that moment again to see that connection. Would you recommend this?
One of the things we try to be here is very authentic.
Right.
A little disappointed that, some of them are American. And then you want to go, is this an American view?
Right. I struggle with if I would recommend. Again, I go back to sort of very specific things. Like, I'd be curious to show this to a group of teachers who maybe are covering the Gift of the Magi and say, would you want to show this as an alternative way of like a different version of the story, but the same values of a story type of thing? Like, maybe that I would recommend, but broadly, I don't think I would recommend.
Well, because it's funny, if you read The Gift of the Magi now, it seems so dated, where it's a comb and a brush and a watch fob. You're like, really? That I'm sure kids are like, what? Why would she care? Would you show it to Nancy's parents?
I don't know. I mean, I guess I would probably be curious for them to watch it and see how they react to it. I don't know if
I would too. That's why I was wondering, like, would they say that's a very realistic portrayal? Or would they say maybe because they left, maybe they have a different view even than someone who lives there now? I don't know.
I don't know.
Did they go back? Did they go back to Iraq or no?
I think they have been back. Okay. Again, I don't know the last time they've been there. A lot of their family is now here in the U.S. I know they still have relatives in Iraq. I also want to appreciate that you also give me how to say Merry Christmas when there's multiple ways to say Merry Christmas. I'm not going to say all of these, but anyway.
I just fill your dance card up so much.
So the way you say Merry Christmas, and this is more of the Iraqi way to say it, is I am Uk Saeed. And this doesn't mean Merry Christmas, but instead it's a greeting to say, may your days be happy or joyful.
Oh.
And if that was for a male, if you were saying it to a female, you'd say, I am Mitch Saeed. Or if it was for a group of people, it'd be I Kham Saeed. And so this is how you would say it in the Iraqi dialect, but it's also appropriate to say Id Malid Majid in Arabic as well. So there's Ayak Saeed, Ayamich Saeed, Ayamuk Saeed, but there's also, you could say in Arabic, Aid Malan Majad.
I feel like I'm in a English as a second language class. Very good, though. We're learning how you change it based on the gender of who you're speaking to.
And then there is Aid Malid Majid. This is what we learned a little bit when we were in Palestine, which really translates to glorious birth feast or glorious holiday of birth.
I'm glad you said that. I feel
think
like yes, I feel like I'd heard that before. That's so funny. Oh, I knew it exactly.
And then the last one, I'd say the Assyrian Christians have a completely different greeting. And the Assyrians are what Nancy and her family are. And so in their Eastern dialect, they would say Adu Brachacho, or blessed feast.
So we have a choice of 5 different ways of saying it.
Yeah, I think I would just go with Merry Christmas to be safe.
Yeah.
But let's talk about some of the traditions in Iraq. Christmas is becoming more popular.
Do they have traditions in Iraq? Christmas traditions?
Well, everybody has Christmas.
Oh, okay.
traditions.
I'm good. This is exciting.
Christmas is becoming more popular and more Iraqis are celebrating it. The most popular symbol tends to be a lavishly decorated Christmas tree. In Baghdad, actually, the city council has placed Christmas trees at the intersections, and many big hotels and restaurants are decorated as well with Christmas trees. The Iraqi Christmas celebrations, they're not particularly connected to the religious aspect of the holiday. It has been suggested that maybe the Iraqi people have experienced a lot of tough times over the past decades, and the Christmas celebration has become a way to sort of provide hope, bring that sort of Christmas feel.
Oh.
And the celebration sort of helps them forget the multiple wars and display a desire for Christians to come back to Iraq.
Oh.
Just sort of a theory of like the more festive we can make it, maybe people would want to repatriate back into Iraq. Some of these Christians still speak dialects of the Aramaic language that Jesus would have spoken.
Oh, wow.
Right. And this is, again, it just boggles my mind when you start thinking about how far things go back. The number of Christians have dropped from about 1.5 million to approximately 400,000 after the invasion by America in 2003, and fell even further after ISIS kind of swept through the country. So
did they leave?
Christians.
They weren't killed. They were there.
I think both, Bob.
Oh, my gosh.
Yes.
Because think about that, 1.5, that's 2/3 of them are gone.
Right.
Wow.
The Assyrians have roots in the land dating back 6,000 years.
Oh my gosh.
They would become one of the oldest Christian communities that have survived varying different persecutions over the centuries. So they've survived, even though across the whole 6,000 years, there have been multiple times they've been killed, they've been persecuted, they've been imprisoned. The Syrians converted to Christianity as a whole, and it became the ethnic identity of Iraq's Assyrian population, who claimed to be descendants of ancient Assyria. This led to frequent raids and attacks by followers of the new religion, Islam, in the 8th century.
So they converted as a people.
Right.
And they wore it kind of as a cultural badge, saying, we descended from these people of Assyria, who were Christians, early Christians?
Correct.
Okay. So Islam, frequent raids, and okay.
Yep. And then in 1933, there was a large massacre aimed to subjugate those followers of Christianity to accept Islam.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then there was a brief secular period in Iraq from the 40s to the mid-90s. The Assyrians were mostly left in peace, left on their own. I think during the 1980s to the mid-1990s, Christmas was present across Iraq, but it was sort of state-controlled. Television was full of Christmas movies and themes. So there's been times where it's sort of made a resurgence.
Yeah.
And then has gone away and resurgence. However, the public displays of Christmas came to a halt in 1994. So it had a little bit of resurgence in the 80s and 90s, and then sort of kind of came to a halt when the Ba'athists forced Islam in all sectors of life in Iraq.
So you just said,
it's going to be Islam. Yep. This entailed removing all expressions of Christmas, all visible and tangible evidence of Christmas disappeared from public life. And so the Christians, younger generations, made the heartbreaking decision to sort of leave home. Homes were then looted, churches were sacked, artifacts and manuscripts that dated back a millennium were either destroyed or sold.
Oh, this is recent. I mean, in the 90s, late 90s.
Yeah, and then following the defeat of the Islamic State in 2017, some Christians have returned to the villages. You do get some families who have Santa arrive in a suit. Christmas trees are starting to come up, but it's been such a long battle back and forth. Like, would any of us have the fortitude to still be celebrating Christmas?
Yeah, to either one, still be there, or two, if you are there and it's majority of Islamic and you've been in the past persecuted, would you be putting up your tree?
Yeah. So on a lighter note.
Yeah. Although I appreciate the history. I mean, that's fascinating to me.
Yeah.
And I'd love to know more about ancient Assyria. Like where was that and what is that? Although maybe it was part of Iraq. I don't know.
I don't know either. A Christmas tradition in Iraq involves a bonfire of dried thorn branches. The fire is lit after children complete recitation of the nativity story, which is read by candlelight from the book of Psalms. The candles are then used to light the thorns. Tradition says the thorns burn completely and turn to ash. The year ahead will be filled with good fortune. Once the flames have died, each person in the family jumps over the ashes 3 times and makes a wish.
I just love to
That's
learn.
kind of fun.
But isn't it amazing how many, and I think this comes back to ancient times or pagan times, but how many of these things are to bring prosperity or wealth or a good harvest in the next year.
But it's funny too. In the U.S., we have our New Year's Eve type of things where we wish each other good luck. And yeah. But we don't have any cool traditions.
No,
so
I want to jump over the burning thorns
after they've burned. And of course, no podcast would be complete without some food. So Iraqi...
And Mediterranean's popular now.
Oh, I love Mediterranean food, I have to tell you. Iraqi cuisine has a rich history. In fact, stone tablets found in ancient ruins in Iraq shows recipes prepared in temples during religious festivals dating back to 1900 BC. So this is like the first cookbooks in the world. Mesopotamia was a highly advanced society, including the culinary arts. Kebab is a popular dish in Iraq and across the Middle East, right? This is made with spiced ground meat and bulgur wheat. Think about it as being more rice than floury wheat.
Oh, okay.
It's traditional that a tray of crisp Ariana kebab will grace a Christmas table. The outer layer.
Hey, have you ever had that kebab? Like, does Nancy's family or Nancy have any traditional foods?
They do have traditional foods, absolutely. I honestly don't know if I ever had kebab. The outer layer of ground meat and bulgur is stuffed with ground meat seasoned with Arabic spices, onions, garlic, and toasted pine nuts.
Oh, gosh.
I love pine nuts.
I know. I love all of those things. Just the spices and...
These are Middle Eastern meatballs, and the kebab is either boiled, baked, fried, or eaten raw.
Oh, my goodness.
Kletchka is the traditional Iraq dessert for celebration. These are date cookies and a bit like fig Newtons, but infused with cardamom with an elegant spiral shape.
I've seen those.
I've had those.
Yeah.
Those are very good. They're so aromatic, and they have a sweet date filling wrapped with a tasty dough. So lots of dates and nuts and fragrant spices.
That's Mediterranean.
And the last that they have is Najala. Then the Najala has Nigella seeds in it or on top, giving nice bursts of color and flavor. They are typically eaten for Eid al-Fitr, which is the end of Ramadan, or for a wedding or birthday or other Christmas celebrations. They are also enjoyed at Christmas by the Iraqi Christians.
Oh, I see.
Iraqi Christians.
So they're a celebratory thing, and okay.
And it's both. I think it's interesting that it's both the Christians and the Muslims who are selling Ramadan that they share this Najla.
I know we talk about this every time. Could you imagine if we have all our favorite meals from all of these countries that we could just sample?
No, but guess what?
What?
There's no Christmas music at all.
I don't believe it, because I know there are Assyrians that go back
to 1900 BC.
Yes.
To Assyria.
This calls for some Christmas music.
Yes, this Christmas music.
What kind of Christmas music is that?
The least you could do is play some Christmas music.
And now back to Christmas music.
Let's listen to this Assyrian Christmas song. That's the Assyrian Christmas special song, and it's sung by an Assyrian singer, Gagi, not Gaga, Gagi, who was born George Sam in Mosul, Iraq.
So he was born George Sam, and he changed his name to Gagi? Okay.
Hey.
Okay. It worked for Lady Gaga. You're right.
Maybe. He's an Assyrian singer, songwriter, and producer. Gagi has toured, and again, that's how I'm pronouncing it. Yeah. It could be pronounced something different, but he's toured all over the world with his music, including Canada, Australia, Russia, and the Middle East. He actually studied music in Sweden, but moved back to Ankara in northern Iraq and started performing regularly. His first single and music video in 2017 is what became a hit and made him famous.
Oh, interesting.
It is.
It's trivia. Trivia.
Think about the challenge of being in a country that dates back to like forever, where BC and AD come into play. So when it came to trivia, Iraq is diverse, colorful, and interesting, and it's well worth earning a sticker. In fact, if you know the answer to this, I might give you a couple stickers. I might deliver them. I might kiss you. I might hug you.
And you get to celebrate with Nancy's parents. Just kidding.
We considered asking about the Valley of Peace located in Najaf, Iraq. It's the biggest necropolis in the world. It's in a large, elaborate cemetery built around important centers of ancient civilizations. There's over 6 million people buried there.
That's a cemetery, 6 million people.
I'm looking for Uncle George. Or how about the sect in Iraq, which claims to descend from Seth, the son of Adam, and believes themselves to be the father of John the Baptist?
Ooh.
Or we considered asking about the Encyclopedia of the Brethren of Purity, which I'm not a member of, written by a group of philosophers in the 10th century Iraq, which describes as an early theory of evolution.
Ooh.
Or maybe that the best-selling romance novel titled Zabiya and the King, published in Iraq, which was anonymously written by Saddam Hussein.
Oh my God. He wrote a romance novel?
He's such a romantic. Or finally, how about the biblical Tower of Babel was based on a real building. The Etamakai in Iraq is 300 feet tall, which is massive by ancient standards, and built by King Nebuchadnezzar. But anyway, what we decided is that, no, we're interested in knowing about a 5,000-year-old tablet from the Sumerian city of Umma in Iraq. This ancient tablet was discovered to be what? What is this tablet? It's a 5,000-year-old tablet from the Sumerian city of Umma in Iraq. If you know what this tablet is or what it contains, again, this might be a multi-sticker award. And so let us know. Give us an email at festivefans@gmail.com. Thanks for venturing into Iraq with us tonight. I'll leave you with this thought. And this thought's coming to us via Bob Hope.
Oh, Bob Hope.
Yeah. And his quote.
Is he Iraqi?
No. My idea of Christmas, he said, whether it's old-fashioned or modern, is simple. It's loving others. And come to think of it, why do we have to wait for Christmas to do that?
I love Bob.
Bob's
that's
the
awesome. Best. Oh, Mark, that's a nice uplifting message at the end of, I'm still processing the whole history of those poor Iraqis, the Christian Iraqis, I mean.
Yeah, even
yeah, but you know
even
what?
The non-Christians have been through a lot as well.
Well, I was going to say, you could say, someone might say, well, look at what the Islamics did to those Christians there. But we know that the Christians have done a lot of things as well.
That's right. So I think that's a wrap, Bob. Don't forget, fans, give us feedback. Let us know what you thought about today's movie. And
can you tell me 5 different ways to say goodbye in Iraq?
Good night, Bob.
Good night. Good night, Bob.
Actually, we're done. Done.
It's over. It's over.
It's over. Kaput. Finito.
It's over. It's over. It's over.
This has been a Waysound Studio production.
And sound engineering on our show is by Jake Fontana.